What is the vibe of your neighborhood? That's today's question. Hi, I'm Sunny, and I have 3 piles you guys can choose from left to right. I have pile 1, 2, and 3. So if you need more time, you're more than welcome to pause the video and then select the pile or piles of your choice when you're ready. Or do just hear them all out and kind of feel them out and see what more or less feels like it's the right choice for you. So for pile number 1, you guys have the Justice card reversed, followed by the 8 of Wands upright. So what are your neighborhood vibes, pile number 1? I always laugh sometimes when I hear myself repeat the same question, but that's the only way I would probably remember what I'm talking about. I'm a very forgetful person, sorry. So apologies if that kind of gets under your skin. So overall, I feel that this vibe, maybe you feel that you live in like a fast-paced place. So you feel like maybe it's a very busy place, or it's just always a place where maybe it's crowded, or it's a place where you feel that everyone's at each other's business. Like maybe you guys are too close together. It might not necessarily be like a big city, but sometimes the proximity might be a little bit too much because you don't have that privacy. It's like people right away know what's going on with your life, or what's like they're just nosy maybe, or specifically maybe older women, or just older people, or maybe also specifically men. It could be predominantly like a male area, and whether you're a female or male, maybe that sometimes can irritate you because maybe you feel like everyone's not moody, but they're more aggressive, right? So imagine like you are living in a street that's full of cars, and everyone's always like vroom with their engine passing by, and it's so loud. And maybe you're busy sleeping, or maybe you're busy like taking care of your child, and you need that like quiet every now and then. Or maybe you're busy studying or doing homework or doing a presentation, and then you hear them. Or maybe it's loud like that, and you're kind of frustrated that this is the kind of place you live in. I do see that maybe, of course, everyone can change it. Like, that's not, like, you don't have to stick in an area, but maybe in the meantime, while you're saving up, this is the kind of neighborhood you're at right now. And it can be, and it can be just isolating maybe to you. It's not like you feel lonely here because it's pretty busy. It just feels like you can't really relate, or you don't necessarily have that kind of pacing in your life like they do. I think they're more like fast going, or like they have places to go and people to see, and you want to take it maybe a little bit mellow every now and then. Or maybe if it is your vibe to actually be on the go because you yourself have a very active life, like I'm never really home and I'm always outside. This seems like an enjoyable place, but this isn't everybody. Overall, I feel that maybe you're kind of weird. Maybe for some of you guys, you could be wary of the fact that this place is just too busy, or too many males, like young male people or older people. And it can be maybe like you might not feel safe necessarily as a female, right, all the time. That you feel like you have to be more protective of that space. Or maybe it's because you feel that there's a lot of crime too. With this Justice card reverse, it could be one of those places that you feel unsafe, maybe because of robberies. Or maybe, I'm not sure if this is one of those trigger words that doesn't get you recommended, but it could be because of that. Or it could be because there's stolen cars, or like bicycles, even at that, like whatever transportation, like it's one of those commodities that people use pretty much, or spare parts that they might take they might steal your tires, or they might break in and just get a few things, like not necessarily everything, but things that can make them fast money, right? So it could be one of those places where it's sketchy, maybe neighborhood, or if it's not super sketchy, it's a place where it's very watched by people that that they're not necessarily watching to like make sure you're safe, but they're watching to make sure that you don't have the kind of they're kind of merchandise that they're trying to sell, right? If you get what I'm trying to say. So it's one of those things that that it gets under your skin because this is a neighborhood, but you're kind of stuck for some reason. So it could be like that you feel like justice isn't served. People, maybe like police people, police cars, police people aren't like surveilling often enough, and maybe it's frustrating that maybe you feel that it's corrupt, or maybe like you feel that there's not enough security cameras too, and so much can be avoided if like everybody did their part in that way of like maybe the judicial system is not working the way it should and it's not helping its citizens. It can be one of those places, right? And that's how you more or less feel the vibes of the neighborhood, like interact with your kind of lifestyle that you're kind of maybe sucking it up for a bit, basically until you get your feet like a little bit more on stable ground, or just when you save enough to actually like move elsewhere. But that's the vibes I get for this. So thank you, pile number 1. Pile number 2, you guys have the Ace of Swords reversed, followed by the 2 of Swords reversed. A lot of sword energy here. So your neighborhood feels like it's a place where you can't really speak up or speak up your mind, maybe because it's a very restricted place, or you feel that because it's very traditional, maybe you can't speak out of that like norm, or maybe you feel that it's very draining and suffocating to you. It causes you a lot of mental stress, maybe because it could be for financial reasons, or maybe because you have like maybe not such severity of problems to worry about, but more so the problems it causes you because maybe there's people who are snooping around, for example, or like let's say you live in like the multinational multi-family unit, right? I think I'm saying that wrong. Multi-generational, there you go, that's the word. Multi-generational household, and regardless of what you do, somehow they always find a way to like snoop around and like snitch on you. And sometimes that can be frustrating for some people because you feel that, example, like maybe you want to bring someone over, like for a hookup, whatever, and they snitch on you. And then people just berate you, basically like that's not what you're supposed to be doing, or they give you very expressive words. Maybe they might just cuss you out and just embarrass you, and it can be very stressful, and like maybe that plays into your mental health, not having great mental health, because you feel suffocated. You feel that everyone's controlling your actions, or they're patrolling you, or they're basically keeping tabs on you, and they're manipulating you to basically just follow their rules. Or like maybe you're being manipulated into situations where you feel that you have no voice or say. Like, example, it doesn't have to be like a person coming over, but even like if you pay bills and stuff, it just feels that you might, it's funny how you might be paying some of those bills, but you might not have a say on like buying groceries or something. Like, that's not something useful for us. Like, it's one of those things that they might take advantage of you in that way, where, and this is like if you live like in like with several people in this place, but imagine yourself being stuck in a situation where you know that they're not going to listen to you because you're basically overrun, your opinion's overrun by their opinions. It could be like that. Or it just feels like you're not heard, you're scared to speak up because it might rock the boat. Again, you're kind of weighing out the decision of maybe moving out, right? Or maybe you're weighing out options of like what's more convenient to you, like being stuck in a place where you feel like you're controlled, or being stuck in this other place where you might not have the resources. Or maybe you're gonna go move into a different place where maybe you might be with strangers, for example, and like you might have to deal with like maybe them stealing your stuff, or maybe like they might be great, or maybe they might not respect your boundaries, or maybe they might have people over. Like, you're kind of weighing all these options, right? It could be like that. I keep saying it could be like that. So much, sorry. I think it's funny. But yeah, I think it's very conflicting for you that it's draining your energy, draining your drive to, and like ambition to do more, maybe for your household or maybe for your neighborhood. Like, what are those associations called? Homeowners, I think it's homeowners association, where they basically, like, you could have a nice place, right? It doesn't have to be so bad, but you could have a nice place, but because you're part of that homeowners association, they keep tabs on everything. Like, your lawn is too long, go cut it, or like, we'll charge you. I think they're supposed, like, I don't know. I think they charge you if they have to come do it, or they fine you for not keeping up with like the standards of how they want to keep it. And it can be stressful for you because you're like, sometimes it might not be that you can't do it, it's just that you have a very full schedule and you're doing everything all at once. I keep thinking of the movie. You're doing everything all at once, or maybe you kind of have different jobs and you can't get quite to those tasks right away. It kind of might take you a while. So usually you're fast at good doing stuff, but being more on not on task, but yeah, I guess being more up to date with a lot of these things that need like more fast action is not what you're doing, because of you. It's not working out just quite yet. So maybe that's why your neighborhood can feel a little bit constricting in that way, where it's like they're not really open to hearing you out. There's miscommunication. It's a place where you get cussed out often, or it's a place where you feel that they're not helping you with your mental health, or it's a place where you can't really speak up because it's a very intimidating place, right, to be in. Or it's intimidating for you to stand up to people like who are like your landlord, because you feel like they have the power over you. Like, well, you signed a contract, well, now you have to stick with it, kind of thing, you know. So the very situations that can arise can feel like very hard for you to speak up, which is really like eating at you, and you're not coming up with those good comebacks, you know. So it can be difficult for you to feel welcome, maybe, or feel comfortable staying in that location in your neighborhood, because you feel that everyone's on each other's business, or they're just watching you. And it's possibly maybe it's one specific person. I do think that this person might be on the older side. I don't pick up on a specific gender here, but I just feel that this person is fickle, or at least the person you're thinking about in your mind is fickle, and they're hard to please, and they're very picky, and they go through every little detail, and maybe you're not looking at the finer details, and that's why they like to pick on you. So that's why you're not comfortable maybe in this neighborhood, or in the household that's in your neighborhood, that's not making, like, maybe it could be a great location, but there's so many menial tasks you have to figure out and deal with, or maybe like maintenances and stuff like that of the location, the apartment and stuff, that it's just really not worth it. I feel it just feels like you might have to be, you're maybe a little bit more private and shy, or like away from like communicating with people here. And that's not typically, I don't feel this is typically the kind of person you are, because I think that you're pretty even out of, like, there's times where you're more social and there's times where you're more introverted, and I feel it's more restricted of you, like to the point where you feel like, I can't really go out and talk to people, or like maybe it's a place where people don't talk to each other and you feel like kind of weird. That you're kind of doing the same, but it makes you feel very restricted and kind of lonely in a way. Like, it's kind of affecting your mental health, for example. Like, maybe you're, like, example, visiting certain areas in Eastern countries, like Asia, for example, and you're maybe part of the West, and you notice that there's like a lot more respect of like privacy, and you're not used to that, right? So maybe sometimes it can be like that, where you're like, oh man, like this place, I love it, it's cute, it's great, but somehow I feel that I'm not connecting the way I connect with typically back home with people. Like, there's some weird communication issue going on here. So that's what I have for you. So thank you, pile number 2. Next is pile number 3. You guys have the Page of Cups upright, followed by the 4 of Pentacles reversed. So let me take a quick water break, pile number 3. I feel I needed it. So pile number 3, what are the vibes of your neighborhood? I feel that maybe someone, well, I feel not maybe someone, but if you're a female, I feel that maybe you feel that one of your neighbors, right? Neighbors in your neighborhood, or maybe your next door neighbor or something, or in the building, maybe you're down the street, has a thing for you. Maybe they're flirtatious with you. Maybe they give you some extra some extra peaches from their you know garden, or they're always like, oh, if you need anything, help me out, like come right by the door, and like just ring the door, or like knock on the door, and I'll help you out or something. Like very open to helping because they're interested. Doesn't mean you have to be interested in them, but you can kind of feel out the vibes of like, oh, someone has like a crush on me, or someone has a thing for me. It feels like they're a younger person. Maybe you are yourself like the same age, but it feels like this person's kind of flirtatious, but helpful, but kind of nice, like a nice guy, specifically. Or you could be that person, right? It could be the person who's like, oh, this is a great place to like flirt because like everyone's young and like they look like they're in that dating scene, so you're like, oh great, like I can not pick and choose, but this is like a good opportunity to like get closer to my neighborhood. But yeah, getting to know your neighbors, or maybe your neighbor or neighbors, trying to get to know you. It could be one of those scenarios, but or maybe you're the one who fell in love with this neighborhood because it's different from where you came from. I do feel that maybe it might have been a bougie place, or it's a bougie place you're living, or more pricier or expensive, or there's maybe it's not that expensive, but because there's more amenities. Oops, I almost hit the lamp. Maybe because there's more amenities to your place, like maybe having like a private gated place, or maybe there's like a pool, or maybe there's a park or something. I don't know, like there's different amenities, or maybe even like the services for laundry and stuff like that is free. So maybe because of that, there's more prices that like the price of it goes up. Maybe it could be just more exclusive, or maybe you could just be close to certain locations that are coveted to people, like being close to schools, or being close, did I say that right? Yeah, being close to schools, being close to grocery stores, hospitals, or maybe just the mall, or just places to go shopping, or like maybe you're close to like a nice beautiful scenery of like, oh, it's a park, or oh, there's like the lake down there, or like stuff like that, or it's like the mountains, or maybe you're just close to like the sea, right? Even though I just said it. So there's so many different types of scenarios that could be more exclusive to your specific neighborhood, that feels like it's more uppity, or like upscale. And maybe that's why people think like, oh, I could tell why this person chose this place. It's this really nice place. So that's how the neighborhood kind of feels, and like the vibes it gives off, where it's like this place is worth its price. It's just you're gonna have to kind of spend a little bit more if you want to have those resources. And maybe you saved up for this place because maybe at some point you didn't have the money to like live in this location, so you had to kind of be, a little bit more stingy with your spending and your budgeting. And it might have taken you quite a long time, but eventually you got to the place where you feel like, okay, I have enough to like spend on this place, and I can upkeep its monthly fees or yearly fees and stuff like that. So it feels like you fell in love with this place. And I think most people have that love for the location as well. It feels very friendly, possibly. I don't feel that it's a very, compared to some of the previous piles, or maybe both. I'm not going to say which one specifically had the more like negative side, but I feel that this place has a more open feeling to it, where it's not as, I don't want to say scary, but you're not as concerned over your surroundings as much, because it's very controlled. It's like a very controlled environment, but it feels nice to you. I feel like you feel safe, you feel open. You wouldn't mind living here alone, like if you're like a bachelor, or you're like a bachelorette pad kind of thing, like you enjoy it. So I feel that overall this pile feels like they're very comfortable and satisfied with their location of their neighborhood, or like the apartment or house, condo maybe, but it just feels like they or you you chose this location and within reason, and I think you're happy with it. It feels like you had a good investment, and you're sticking to it. So the neighborhood feels like maybe people who are well off, or maybe people who have a steady job or specific income, maybe like bracket, enjoy this kind of location, and maybe you're part of that, right? It feels like you get to be more artsy fartsy even at that. So maybe it can also be one of those locations that it's like, it's nice, it's upscale, but it's also an artistic place of people that have a lot of like artistic talents. Maybe there's a lot of musicians, or maybe it's a lot of artists, or maybe it's a lot of composers, or like people who play in, I'm gonna say this wrong, but like classical orchestra kind of things. Yeah, very, very unique, very niche. I think you can see people be very expressive of their creativity, and it makes you feel alive. Maybe the location itself is very creative, very spontaneous, like in that way of like you can decorate it as you wish. Eccentricities or eccentric people live there, and you relate to that. Very calm, peaceful, but maybe it's by the sea. I just keep feeling like you're by land, like a land of water, or maybe you're just in your fields, or you get to be more emotional here in that way of like self-expression, and no one's gonna judge you. It just feels like you can be more open, a lot of open space in this vibe. But yeah, it just feels like you had to invest yourself in it. Maybe it was like one of those houses that had to be remodeled, and it was quite the cost, or an apartment that was quite the cost, and you remodeled it to your own taste. And it was very eccentric, but it was very to yourself and unique, but very cute. It's one of those places that I can see like how those popular videos are of people like renovating and like making it their own piece of statements when it comes to their living space, and people are like, oh, this is such a great idea, like thank you for sharing and stuff like that. It just feels like that you have that kind of location that's very open and very cute and very much matching your personality basically. So that's what I have for you guys. That's more or less how the neighborhood feels. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you soon. So bye everybody.